Hi everyone, Samantha back here again for another video. Hope you guys are all okay. Life's treating you well. Today I'm going to show you how to make these links to make these beautiful bracelets. Now then, you can make these in all sorts of different size beads. Today we're going to be making them with 6mm. So if you raid your stash and grab out some 6mm beads, we can have a go at making these little guys. As you can see, you can use them for all sorts of different bracelets. I've attached mine to this little spiral guy here, which I think looks really pretty. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to make these little links. Okay, so let's go through the list of materials that we need. Obviously, to start with, you're going to need some wire. For my bracelets, I don't tend to use 1mm because it's slightly too thick for me, but we're going to need some 1mm wire for the clasp. Okay, so grab some 1mm wire. For today's project, I'm using 0.7mm wire. As usual, I'll just double check the gauge equivalent for you guys who use gauge, and I'll pop that in the description below. You can use 0.6, you can use 0.8. For this one, 0.7, just because I think it looks quite nice, as you can see. Not too thick, not too thin. Obviously this is a necklace that I'm currently in the process of making. Okay. And as usual, our tools. So we're going to need flush cutters, obviously, to cut your wire. I'm using these days, because it gets in really close, I'm using a pair of nail clippers, just because I think they're getting really close to when you're cutting the wire. As usual, chain nose are a really good way of keeping lots of control over your wire. You're going to need, I've got some flat nose here actually. If you prefer to use those, you can do. And you're going to need either round nose pliers, or for me, as usual, I like to use the 6-step bail making pliers. Again, because I like the control over the sizes of the loops and the hoops that you make. And for today, we're going to be using the 2nd step. So whatever the equivalent is on your round nose pliers, you can use those if you choose to. You're going to need a basic ruler just to measure lengths out. You're going to need some beads. And today I'm just going to be using some 6mm onyx beads just to finish off the necklace that I've been making. And you're going to need a couple of copper jump rings, one on each end of the bracelet. One to put the clasp into and one to attach the clasp to your links. Right, so let's clear everything away and we'll get going on this tutorial. Hope you enjoy it. So if we think about the basic construction of the regular 2-hoop bead link that we've looked at in a previous tutorial, the beads are centered in the middle with a wire wrap loop on one side and a wire wrap loop on the other. For this particular design, we're going to be placing a little wrap over the bead. It's like encases the bead. Now there are tutorials where you can do a double wrap, which I will do in the future, but I quite like the one singular wrap around the bead. I think it looks very elegant. And it's very pretty, isn't it? So the basic construction is the same. There's just an extra little bit of a part of the process where you wind the wire around the bead. Okay, so let's get going. So I've measured out the exact dimensions that you're going to need for each of these. As you're going along, you can experiment yourself. You can use slightly less wire as you get more proficient. But I think that using just slightly more wire at the start means that you get a little bit more control and it's a little bit easier to manipulate. Okay, so for each component, you want around about 4.5 inches of wire. Now, quite often when I'm making quite a few of these to make such thing as a necklace, I will measure out, 20, 30 of these lengths and have and do it in a production line fashion, so that each part of the process that I'll show you, I do one after the other. It's just the way I like to do it. Some people like to do it each link individually. That's up to you. So 4.5 inches to start with. Okay, so you come in with your chain nose and you want to measure 1.5 inches down the length of your wire, like so. Let's just get rid of this ruler. Okay, so 1.5 inches. Bend this short piece of wire downwards to make a right angle, like so. Okay, then you want to come in with either your round nose or the second step of your bell making pliers and place them like that. This part of the wire then wants to come towards you to create a loop, like so. And then you twist your plier around and this short piece of wire goes forwards. So you're left with a circle. Okay. So this is when we make the first part of our wrap. So I like to use flat nose for this particular part here because it grasps the hoop really, really nicely and tightly. And then we need to be winding this part of the wire around 3 times. Okay, so 1, and 2, and 3, and then back under. So that's 3.5 times. Okay, so you can see how this loop is beautifully round, give or take. Then we want to be snipping this part off. Now you can come in with your flush cutters. I like to come in with the nail clippers because I don't know if you can see, you get in really, really tightly. And it makes a really, really nice close snip. However, if you find that you've got a little bit sticking up, hold it here, come in with your pliers and just give it a bit of a smush. Make sure everything is nice and tidy. Okay, so that's the first part. Then you come in with your bead. Like I say, pretty much any size works with these, but I'm using 6mm today. So we've got a nice little onyx bead on here, and we want to be making another one of these wraps on the other side. So making this gap the same size here so that it's equal. You get 3.5 wraps on either side, and do it so that your hoops are facing in the same direction. So have this hoop upwards like this. Okay, you then want to push this long piece of wire downwards again to make another angle like so. Okay, so again we repeat the process. Come in with your round nose or your bell making pliers like so. This guy towards you, around the plier, move the plier round so that you can then push. It's like a little bow tie at this particular stage. Okay, so this is what we're left with. The next part is to wind this wire around again. So Come in with your pliers, chain nose is fine. Wind around 3.5 times. So that's 1 and 2 and 3. Back under. This is the point where we wrap over the bead. Okay, so making sure that this is grasping this part relatively securely, but again, not so much that you damage the wire. Bring this wire up with your thumb and across the bead tightly. Okay. Then this wire wants to be wrapped around your previous wrap 1.5 times. Okay, you see that? So you're left with this. Okay, so now we want to snip this guy off here. So again, either with your flush cutters or your nail clippers. Clip that off. And as you can see, we've got it wound around nice and neatly there. Again, if you feel a little bit of a sharp spot, just come in again with your pliers, give it a little bit of a smush round. There we go. Okay, and now that's your first one done. Okay, that was easy, wasn't it? Now then, let's make one more and then we can attach. Okay, so again, measure out your wire. 4.5 inches, give or take. Okay, so you come in with your pliers, sorry, not your pliers, your cutters, and measure out 4.5 inches. Approximately 1.5 inches down. Okay, bend it to an angle. Come in with your pliers. I said pliers again. Bail making pliers, there you go. Bend it towards you. Rotate. Bend away from you. Okay. Now then, when I'm making these guys, I like to have all of the wraps going in the same direction. So what I tend to do is pop the wrapped link so they're all going in the same direction. So you pop it on, give it a little bit of a tug, not too much because you don't want to distort this little hoop here. Okay, so that's now linked. Then come in with your narrow chain nose. Okay, come in again with another set of chain nose and wrap. I like 3.5 times just because it's a nice neat, so that's 2 and 3.5. Okay, now you are getting left with a little bit of wastage here, but you know, I think it's worth it because you get more control, and if you just, you know, having a little bit of wastage on each one, I think the control it gives you is worth it. Come in with your pliers, not your pliers, I keep saying pliers, guys, what's the matter with me today? Come in with your cutters. Okay, and then if there's any sharp spots, again, just give it a bit of a smush. Okay, come in with your bead, pop your bead on, and again, making sure that these loops go in the same direction. hold it so this loop is standing up upright, okay? In with the chain nose at the very tip, bend this wire downwards. So you've got a 45 or so degree angle here. Come in with your round nose, this wire towards you. Rotate and away from you. So again, you've got this sort of little bow tie type shape. Again, hold nice and firmly so that we can wrap this part around this small section here. Okay, so come in again. That's 1, 2, and 3 and a half. Okay, then this wire with your thumb, wrap it tightly around the bead underneath, and then tightly with your thumbs, forefinger, that kind of thing, over the top. Can you see that? Okay. And then we come in and again snip. And if there's any sharp spots that you can see, just pop in with your pliers and just give it a bit of a smush. So that's 2 links. How cute are they? So you basically keep going until you've made enough of those for a bracelet. So for me, I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which makes around about an 8-inch. So each one of these units is about 3/4 of an inch. So work that one out for yourself, depending upon what your wrist size is. So for me, I like it to sort of sit down my hand a little bit. I like a looser bracelet, so you can work out for yourself. So if each one of those is about 3/4 of an inch. Okay. The clasp that we're going to be making next is about 1/2 inch. All right, so you should be able to work out. Okay, so we'll do the clasp next. Make as many of these as you need, and we'll meet back here when you've got all of your loops all connected, all of your links connected, and we'll go on and we will make the clasp. See you in a few. Hi there, we're back. Okay, so hopefully by now you have made all of the little links and linked them all together for your bracelet. So now we're going to make a little cute clasp to go with it. This is where your 1mm wire comes in. I'm choosing 1mm because for the clasp, even though it's doubled up, it does give it a little bit more solidity. You don't really want to be going any less than maybe 0.8 perhaps, but even then I'd suggest 1mm. Okay, so stretch and pull and straighten a little bit of wire. You want 4 inches for this clasp. Again, these projects don't use an awful lot of wire actually, so they're quite economical. Okay, so we have our length of wire here. Now then, you want to come in at about 1 inch down. So all of these measurements are pretty good to remember. 4 inches and then 1 inch down. Right down at the very end and the tip of your chain nose pliers, you want to bend, okay, so that you have this. This is where the flat nose come in handy, because this part of the procedure is actually a little easier with flat nose pliers. You want to smush these two wires together to make them closely parallel. Okay, now this requires a little bit of concentration, and you do it real gently, holding these wires here real quite tightly and closely. See, that's what happens. It doesn't like to play ball, but keep going very gently. Very gently. If there's a little bit of a loop at the end, that doesn't matter. In fact, decoratively, it looks quite pretty. Okay, so this is what you're left with. Okay, so you want to be making a hoop on this side here, and this is where you come in with your chain nose again and bend it just where the two wires meet. Can you see that? You want to bend this wire away from you just slightly, like so. Okay, can you see that? Take your pliers again, either your round nose or your bail making pliers, and again I'm using the second step. Place them here, and this guy needs to come towards you. Again, we're making a loop, so rotate your pliers to make your loop. Okay, so this is what you have at this particular stage. So you have a loop with your double here. This wire here is going to be wrapped around this part here, so we're going to encase both of these guys with this. So using your flat nose if you have them, your chain nose if you don't, you want to be winding this guy around to encase these two. Okay, so nice and gently you want to wind and wrap. This guy will kink up a little bit to start with. Don't worry about that, we can sort that out in a little while. So just keep winding round until you have this. Okay, which is when you come in and give everything a little bit of a tweak. Wire is seriously well forgiving. Okay, so give everything a little bit of a tweak. Okay, this is where we cut off this little spike here. So again, either with your flush cutters or your nail clippers, so that you've got a nice tight cut. If there's a little bit sticking out, just come in with your pliers and give it a bit of a squeeze. It's not too bad actually, that one. Okay, so everything is nice and squeezed. Now as you can see here, this hoop is slightly offset. Okay, it's a good idea to have everything flat. So come in with your other chain nose, give everything a bit of a twist so that everything's nice and flat. Okay, that's what we have. At this stage, you can come in, if you prefer, with your bench block. I like to give, excuse the noise for a second, I like to give the loop a slight hammer just to strengthen it, and again putting this length at the end of the block, just give it a little bit of a hammer just to strengthen it. Okay, this is what's called work hardening. Work hardening means that everything tightens up, it becomes a little bit more brittle, but not that it will snap, it just means that it hardens everything up. Okay, so that's what we have. Then you want to come in again with your round nose or your 6-step bail making pliers again, and find just below the halfway point, which for me is about here, and bend. Okay, so that you're left with that shape. Okay, it's nice to put a little bit of a kink in the end of this part here. So just come in with your chain nose, just give it a little bit of a tweak, a little bit of a kink at the end, straighten things up if you have to, which, let's face it, we all have to. Sometimes wire doesn't like you and it gives you a bit of a nightmare, but that's the whole point, isn't it? Okay, so there's our little clasp, easy peasy. So we want to attach the clasp to our necklace or our bracelet. Okay, so you're going to want your 2 jump rings. We want a jump ring at either side of the bracelet or the necklace. So again, using your chain nose, open them like a gate this way, not outwards. You don't want to distort your jump ring. Okay, pop one side onto your jump ring and close it. Okay, so that's your first jump ring. Your second jump ring, open. Okay, pop on and pop your little sweet clasp on. And again, close nice and gently. Can't see what I'm doing through the camera. There we go. Okay. So that's your little clasp on nice and securely, which goes through your other jump ring. So there we have it, guys. I mean, that's basically it. And how beautiful are those? I've done various ones. This one's lapis. This guy is a amazonite. So you can see the difference that the copper makes to different bead colours. This one is a pink agate, dyed pink agate, I think. And this one is Austrian crystal, like a beautiful grey Austrian crystal, which I think looks beautiful next to the copper. Even when the copper's aged slightly or you decide to put a patina on it, beautiful. And you can also use these around little other components. I mean, how beautiful does that look? I love this component. If you're interested in me doing a quick tutorial on how to make this bracelet, then just give me a shout down in the comments below, and I'll quite happily do that for you too. Beautiful, aren't they? So have lots and lots of fun with these. I'd love to know what you make. Aren't they lovely? So just let me know in the comments how you found it and what you made with them, and I hope you have lots of fun with them. Okay, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, guys. See you soon. Bye.